Hi, it's Wednesday the 24th of February. Just come back from a little trek out on my bike. It's excellent, isn't it, that there's a road map to get us out of lockdown. I'm sure we're all really sick of having to stop at home. But one of the good things is that we've had an opportunity to sort things out, and I've enjoyed going through some of the stuff that I found in my office. I have a box file, and it's just called John, and it has little bits and pieces in it. And I went through the other day, and I came across a letter, and here it is, quite an old letter. In fact, it's dated the 27th of September, 1973. And it says this: "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair, I regret to inform you that your son John was today caught smoking at school, a serious violation of one of our most important school rules. And I've pointed out to John that should this happen again, his failure to obey school rules would be noted in any reference, blah, blah, blah." And on it goes. So that's what happened to me in 1973. And, well, I found another letter dated the 2nd of October 1973. So it's just a week later. And this one says, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Sinclair, I regret to inform you that your son John was today caught smoking at school." It's exactly the same as the first letter, except on the bottom it says this is the second time that John has disobeyed the rules. Well, let me tell you, it wasn't the second time I'd disobeyed the rules. It was only the second time I'd been caught. But what does it tell you? Well, it tells you that I was not at all repentant for being caught smoking at school. And also tells you that my parents hadn't imposed any appropriate sanction on me after receiving the first letter. To be honest, I'm not sure whether they received the letters or whether I was able to cut them off at the pass after they'd been delivered. But it must have been very frustrating for the head teacher, and I would imagine that he would have thought that by informing my parents, then something would have happened. There would have been a consequence for my action. And what he hadn't reckoned on was the fact that I was a little bit irresponsible and a bit of a nitwit, and some of that was genetic. Today's Old Testament reading is Jonah. Today it's Jonah chapter 3. But that's about people who are irresponsible, how their irresponsible actions. Today's Old Testament reading is from the book of Jonah, and it's all about irresponsible actions and their consequences. I like Jonah. He's a flawed character. He gives me hope. Despite all his faults, God was able to use him. I'm sure you know the story. God says to Jonah, "I want you to go off to Nineveh and tell the people about their wicked lifestyle. They've got to change." And Jonah thinks, well, I'm not doing that. And he runs off in the opposite direction. And he's trying to get far away, and he gets himself on a boat and he's heading off. But there's a terrible storm when he's on the boat, and he realizes that this storm is there because this is God telling him off. And so he admits it to the sailors, and he said, "Look, just throw me overboard and the storm will go away. It's all my fault." And the sailors didn't want to do it, but eventually they did, and they threw him overboard. And you know what happened? It's when the big fish or the whale came and swallowed him up. And while he was inside the fish, Jonah realized that he was sorry that he'd ran away from his responsibilities. And God again asked him, "Go to Nineveh," and he said he would go. And what happened when he went? He went to Nineveh expecting them to give him a really hard time, and they don't. They're completely repentant, and they turn back to God. And you think that Jonah would be pleased about that, but he wasn't, not a bit of it. Instead, he's in a bit of a huff with God for not punishing these people as he said he was going to. So what do we learn from that? Well, in the real world and the spiritual world, actions have consequences. God was angry with Nineveh because they'd been wicked, and he sent Jonah to challenge them. And we can expect God to challenge us too. If we're wrong, we must listen to our conscience. The second thing is we can run from God, but we can't hide. Jonah thought that if he ignored God, he wouldn't have to do what God had asked him to do, but it didn't quite work out like that. Sometimes we think if we ignore God, he'll just leave us alone. But in truth, God never gives up on us. He has a plan for us, for our lives, and he wants us to do what's right and what's best for us. And the third thing, no matter how difficult or disobedient we are, God is always willing to forgive us and to give us another chance. Nineveh had a change of heart. Jonah had a change of heart. Both repented. And it's great to know that it's never too late to change, to say sorry, to be sorry for our actions and to do better. Jonah had a difficult message to deliver to Nineveh. We, on the other hand, have a fantastic message to share with our neighbours, our friends, with our world. And the message is this: God loves us, God forgives us, and God has a plan for us. And that really is great news. Bye for now.